worn out suits you so well.
Samantha Anderson said that, splashing the can of beer she was holding onto my head during my shift, laughing loudly. My name is Josh Miller. My names are just a Josh. So whenever I'm asked if my real name is Joshua, I respond with just Josh, and it always leads to a comment like, "That's unique." Interestingly, this name was given to me by my late grandfather, who believed that keeping it simple would make it easier for people to remember, and I've grown fond of it. As for my background, my parents divorced when I was just starting to understand the world around me. I was raised by my mother in a single-parent household. I've never been told why they divorced. However, I vividly remember my mom was crying the night my dad left. So I never felt the urge to ask about the reason. Growing up in a single-mom household meant my mom had to earn what usually a man would bring in by himself. She had multiple part-time jobs, working from dawn to dusk, to ensure I had a decent life. Seeing her tireless efforts, even as I was a kid, I felt compelled to make the most out of my studies and often suppressed my own desires. I really wanted to play soccer, but I was worried it would affect my grades, so I never joined a team. Looking back, financially, we couldn't have afforded the cleats and uniforms anyway, so I think it was the right call. Unlike some kids, I didn't have the extra textbooks or tutoring, but thanks to my sharp intellect and exceptional memory, I consistently ranked at the top of my class throughout elementary school. But even with my mom working multiple jobs, they were still just part-time positions. She never had the chance for promotions or bonuses, so our financial situation remained stagnant. So as I moved into middle school, our financial struggles continued. In elementary school, there was no uniform, so I always wore worn-out clothes. And by the upper grades, classmates and teachers had pegged me as the poor family. Luckily, from middle school, we had school uniforms and bags, so I wasn't constantly reminded of my family's financial situation in public. Then, almost the end of the year of 7th grade, while I was doing homework in classroom after school, the most popular and beautiful girl in our grade, named Samantha Anderson, approached me asking, "You're Josh, right?" "Yes, that's me." Having transferred from a different district in elementary school, I struggled to fit into this new environment. So I spent most of my time reading books without making any friends. Just then, to top it all off, I was approached by the popular Samantha. I couldn't hide my agitation. Seemingly oblivious to my nervousness, Samantha continued nonchalantly,
So, Josh, how much do you usually study?
"Well, I get to school as soon as the doors open, do the day's prep, and after school, I review like I'm doing now. Then I head home and study until I go to bed."
That's impressive. No wonder you're so smart. I always see your name at the top of the test rankings, but I had no idea who you were. So I got curious and approached you.
Samantha laughing as she said this. She is the prettiest girl I'd ever met. From that day on, Samantha would visit me almost daily, asking for help with her studies. Gradually, not only did we study together, but we also chatted about everyday things and even relationships. By the time we became 8th grader, we started dating. I never thought I'd have a girlfriend, someone like Samantha, in middle school, before making any friends. However, Even I have a girlfriend. I was determined not to neglect my studies, so my grades never dropped. Our relationship was going well, but then, one day, everything came to a sudden end. On a certain weekend, we planned our first go-on date. Being the weekend, we weren't in school uniforms, but in our regular clothes. I actually wanted to cancel, thinking Samantha liked me for my smartness, so reluctantly agreed. But Samantha's reaction, when she arrived late at our meeting spot, was unexpected.
I'm sorry, I'm late.
She began, but upon seeing me, her expression changed dramatically.
What are you wearing?
I couldn't blame her. I was wearing a worn-out t-shirt with shabby jeans, looking very underdressed. I tried to justify. Well, I'm not really into fashion. Plus, you know, studying's kind of my thing, and I don't go out much. Still, Samantha looked unconvinced. I had a feeling, but I didn't realize you were Pua this much. That day, Samantha was dressed head to toe in shiny brand name clothes. Think of it, Samantha's family is wealthy. She is a CEO's daughter. Seeing her made me painfully aware of how shabby I looked. I felt utterly embarrassed.
I can't be seen walking next to someone like you. Sorry, but we can't be together anymore. Goodbye.
With that, she walked away, ending our relationship. My school life after that, it was hell. Thanks to Samantha, who was high up in the sociality, the entire graders knew about my family's financial struggles. If that were all, it might have been bearable, but Samantha turned everyone against me. They followed her, looking down on me and even ostracizing me. According to Samantha, it was payback for embarrassing her. Samantha once told me that she sought revenge because she was humiliated. By looking down on me, who had the best grades in the grade, she thoroughly boosted herself, probably trying to maintain the value of her existence as Samantha. But the fact that her grudge escalated into bullying that involved the entire grade is terrifying. At the same time, her popularity was kind of impressive. The bullying included acts like opening all the windows saying, "The mood is off when Josh is around," hiding textbooks or sneakers, and mocking, "Oops, did you lose it? Why not buy a new one? Oh, sorry, your family's Pua, right?" The list of these harassments goes on and on. It continued even we became a high school students. The reason I kept going to school despite all this was mainly because I didn't want to waste my mom's hard work. So, I was determined to keep the top spot in the grade, and I dived deeper into my studies, outperforming my peers. Throughout all this, I sometimes felt like giving up, but I'm made to graduate. After graduation, I wanted to go to college and study further. Still, I was concerned that if I pushed my mom any harder, she might break down, so I gave up on studying and started working at a hotel. I worked at a famous luxury hotel. Thanks to my mom's connection with the hotel's owner, I got a job there. Typically, they wouldn't hire someone with only a high school diploma, but they made an exception for me. Mr. Johnson is a competent man who owns several other hotels, and he's incredibly strict. It's not because I was young and had only a high school education, but that's his management style, which is a key to his success, as senior employees told me. So, no matter how much he scolded me, I kept working without losing heart. There was a lot to learn, like manners towards guests at a luxury hotel. But as I learned them all, I got scolded less and less.
You learn fast, Josh. Right, Mr. Johnson?
If you couldn't do at least this much, you wouldn't last here.
No matter how much I improved, Mr. Johnson never once praised me. Still, I poured all the passion I had for studying into my job and gave it my all. I made mistakes sometime, getting yelled at by other employees, but I kept at it. One day, when it was just Mr. Johnson and me at the front desk, he muttered, "Maybe I should start another hotel." Hearing that, I thought I should learn from his entrepreneurial spirit and push myself even harder. And so, 15 years of service went by. And it was on the day I turned 33. As I was standing at the front desk as usual, Samantha Anderson walked in through the automatic doors with a man by her side. She might have been married by her age, but there was no ring on her left finger, so he was probably her boyfriend. As Samantha approached, my heart raced, and I started sweating. And it was when they finally reached right in front of me.
Is that you, Josh?
"Yay, Samantha. It's been a while."
No way, you work here. You, being so broke and just a high school grad?
Mocking me, just like old times, she bragged about her boyfriend being an elite employee at a major company, earning $200,000 a year. Before checking in, I had to carry their luggage to their room. Throughout the way, she continued her barrage of insults, but I put on a poker face and completed the task. What a way to celebrate my birthday, being reminded of a painful past by running into Samantha. Even during work, I found myself a bit downcast, and it felt like my concentration might snap. A few hours later during break, the boss came into the break room saying he had something to discuss. After the break, as I got back to work, Samantha showed up in the lobby again. Her flushed face and slightly stumble walk suggested she'd had a drink or two. That's just like Samantha. It's a given that she'd be even more troublesome when drunk. Samantha, heavily sitting on a lobby sofa, took a big swig from the can of beer in her hand and immediately began to pick on me.
I want to know, when did you start working here?
I started right after high school.
Oh, that explains it. No wonder no one's been talking about you. I was looking forward to spilling the beans about your home life back in college, just for fun.
Ha, please stop. I forced a dry smile. I didn't want to engage in too much chit-chat, especially during work hours. I silently wished she'd just leave already. Still, Samantha continued to vent, perhaps holding on to some old grudges against me for the past 15 years.
If I'd known a lowlife like you worked here, I wouldn't have stayed. This is the worst. Why are you at the front desk? You should be housekeeper.
I anticipated that even if other guests arrived, Samantha wouldn't stop. So, I left the front desk and approached her. "Please keep your voice down. There are other guests around."
Excuse me, why do I have to listen to you?
The next moment, Samantha stood up, saying, "This uniform doesn't suit you," and poured her half-drunk beer all over my head.
See, rags suit you better.
Samantha laughed heartily. She looked almost wicked, like a witch. Seeing this, other employees quickly rushed over to my aid, but I held them back. "It's okay.
but you're all wet.
Yeah, I'll go change. I shot Samantha a glance and said, "You've had too much to drink," before leaving the scene. When I returned to the front desk after changing, Samantha was still lounging on the sofa. That's when it happened. Samantha's boyfriend entered and, looking quite excited, said, "There's an awesome car parked outside. It's all black and super sleek. Must be custom made."
Really? My dad has tons of luxury cars, so it's gotta be something extraordinary to impress me.
While they conversed, both peered outside through the automatic doors. Several men in suits exited the luxurious car. Just by looking, it was evident their suits were high-end. I watched them, thinking maybe they were some VIPs staying here. However, the group in suits headed straight for the front desk. Among the three of us employees, they stopped right in front of me and said, "Boss, we're here to pick you up." Huh? At first, I was completely taken aback, unable to grasp the situation. But there was no one behind me. This meant that those words were likely directed at me. Then, from behind, Samantha approached and exclaimed, "Huh, this guy's the boss. You must be mistaken. He only graduated high school and comes from poor background. He might have lucked out working in such a fancy hotel, but that's the best he's ever gonna get in life." The men looked puzzled by the drunken outburst from Samantha. "Boss, do you know her?" one of the men asked me, and I said, "Well, we went to high school together."
What do you mean, well? Don't get cheeky with me, especially after all that you've been bullied.
Just as Samantha was about to lunge at me, Mr. Johnson, the CEO, appeared from behind her, grabbed her shoulder, and calmly said, "Please calm down." "Mr. Johnson, who are these people?"
Actually, I've kept a secret from you until your birthday today. I've been thinking of interesting you with the new wing that's opening next month.
I remember the time, shortly after I joined the company, when Mr. Johnson had casually mentioned considering opening a new hotel. When the new hotel was confirmed, I realized just how incredible Mr. Johnson truly was. I had never dreamed that he would trust me with it.
I've been impressed with your work ethic ever since you joined the company. In my generation, it was common for folks to start working right after high school. But for your generation, it takes a lot of guts to make that choice. Still, you made up your mind and continued working here with dedication. I was hard on you because I wanted you to aim higher. I believed that if you could handle that pressure, you were someone I could rely on. So I've been planning this for a long time.
Then, Mr. Johnson took my hand and said with a kind expression, "I'm counting on you, and happy birthday." I couldn't hold back my tears. I felt like I'd finally been recognized by Mr. Johnson, who had always been so strict. For the first time, I felt that all my hard work had been worth it. He gently patted my shoulder, and the boss turned around, addressing Samantha. "It might not mean much telling you this, but your father's company, Anderson Group, might be in some hot water soon," he said with a knowing tone.
Excuse me. What are you talking about, old man? My dad wouldn't screw up. Gross. Let's go.
With that dismissive remark, Samantha left with her boyfriend. A few days later, the boss invited me out for dinner. It was then Mr. Johnson told me that his company have business dealings with the Anderson Group. Apparently, It was well known around town that Anderson Group was evading taxes, and upon Mr. Johnson noticed this, he ceased all transactions immediately. A few days after that, the news reported tax evasion by Anderson Group. Consequently, Samantha's father was arrested. The company went bankrupt, and word has it, Samantha was burdened with a significant debt. From what I've heard, Samantha is now wearing tattered clothes and is hustling to get by. If I see her again, maybe I'll treat her to a meal, calling it a continuation of our would-be date from the past. I looked at myself in the mirror, adjusting my tie, mentally preparing myself. From today, I'm the boss, I said, slapping my cheeks to psych myself up. Times are changing, and while a degree might not be as necessary as it once was, society still places a lot of emphasis on education. Certainly, compared to the past, it's said that at the very least, you need a college degree to make ends meet. But is that really the right way to look at things? People like Josh, who are bright and ambitious but, due to family circumstances, had to give up on further studies and enter the workforce at the young age of 18, have always existed. If Josh had been born into a wealthy family like Samantha, he might have ended up at an Ivy League college. My point is, you can't just judge someone's abilities based solely on their education. Thinking someone's incapable because they didn't graduate high school needs to be reevaluated. Could you imagine entering the workforce at 18? Regardless of the reason, if you're not continuing your education, then your only choice is to work. Shouldn't society pay more attention to young folks who are ready to sacrifice their teenage years, the golden age of youth, for a chance at a better life?